with all the big calls on all the big races. It's that weekend feeling time. It's another What a Shout, filmed every Friday morning somewhere in the capital, brought to you by myself in the chair, Dave Orton. Delighted to be back. What a weekend we've got. Go to Ascot, we go to Kempton, we go to Haydock, Group 1 action there. We will be concentrating on the Sprint Cup for you, of course. Right, first and foremost, you know that song Etta James, At Last? Don't do it, no one do it, but at last Pat Cooney has made the journey down from Stoke, Bet365, our sponsor's headquarters, to be with us. Welcome along, Pat.
Yeah, welcome, and I'm very excited to be here and looking forward to a great weekend's races. And no better place to be than in this studio right now.
Absolutely. There's a bit of a looky-likey thing going on with you and Keels here, isn't it? You know what I mean? You've got I don't know where I'm going with that, but I'm going to have to be careful which I'm used to Keels sitting there, of course. Keels, you're just about to go off on holiday, but we got you back in. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, no problem. Last one for a couple of weeks.
Yes, let's talk about Haydock then before we bring in our star guest this week. Unbelievably, the sun has shone. August was an autumnal misery for most people out there. Staycations, all that sort of soggy stuff. It looks
It's actually been warmer in the north, isn't it, than it has been in the south, which is most unusual. And going stick, 9.3 in a home straight.
Wow.
I was going through Turf Track's Going archive early on, and I went through 4 years, and I haven't seen it that high. It's been just below it a couple of times, but that's borderline firm ground. I think music to Ed's ears as far as the big race favourite is concerned. And as long as it stays like that, they don't get the watering can out. It'll be a different Sprint Cup than we are used to, because the last 4 or 5 have all been on soft or heavy ground.
Yeah, that is rattling fast. It's not often you see above 9 on a going stick. Let's bring in then for you our feature guest this week. We've had plenty from him in the post, of course, this week. His Weekender columnist, Ed Walker, joins us from his base. Ed, great to have you with us.
Hi, Dave.
Thanks for coming on. It's been a busy week with the sales and stuff, Ed. It's that sort of fever time now, isn't it? We'll get to that a little bit later in the show. Ed, you started in 2010. Let's have a quick wrap. You won with your first ever runner. Was it Riggins, wasn't it, in 2010?
Yeah, Riggins. He's still in a field at my parents' house, and it was a great start. Bought him out of Lucas. And sent him to Andrew Balling's for a season because I wasn't up and running at that stage. And he got us off to a flyer. I thought the game was easy, and I think it then took me 6 months to have my second winner.
Like buses, they come along, though. It's fair to say, though, Ed, that this has been your year. 50 up, of course, and that Group 1 breakthrough.
Yeah, it's been a great year. It really has. It's I don't really know why. I think just the calibre of horses and touch wood, they've been healthy and it's just gone really, really well. So it's been great, and got a lovely yard down here, and it obviously has made it a lot easier by having some good horses.
Absolutely. I mean, Ed's being modest, of course. He said it took him 6 months for his second winner, but 438 we counted up to August the 31st. Career winners, of course, the group winners there. Let's get the stats up then for the viewers. We can see top horses by RPR. Of course, Usain Bolt is at the top, as Ed called him this week, brilliantly in the paper. That got everyone chin-wagging, didn't it? And of course, there we see lovely horses like Primo Baccio. We're going to her in a sec. But Stormy Antarctic as well. I guess he was the horse that really put you on the map, Ed, wasn't he?
Yeah, good old Stormy's been a flag bearer for a long time now. And it's great to have a couple of horses that have, picked up the baton, so to speak, because, he's really been our stable star for a number of years. And he's just a wonderful horse. And we trainers love horses like him that stick around and very high level. And a big thanks to the Sue family for keeping him in training. And while he's performing at a high level, then why not? He's won a listed race this year, and I think he can still produce more than that, especially when he gets his conditions. And he's been an absolute legend.
Yeah, let the heavens open for Stormy then. Certainly not done with. He's been travelling through his races lovely when he gets his ground. Before we go to Starman, Kills, there's a horse that our regular viewers, in the same colours as David Ward, will know that you're associated with. It's Primo Baccio, and you wanted to ask Ed about her.
Yeah, I love Primo Baccio. Obviously, that run in the Fred Darling earlier in the season, everybody thought it was a fluke, but it turned out not to be, because she absolutely hacked up at York, and she looked all over a Group 1 horse. Unlucky at the Falmouth, didn't get the run of the race at all. But what happened last time, Ed? I'm really keen to see her win a big race. I definitely think she's got one in her, but a bit of a poor run last time.
Yeah, it was a poor run last time. It's it's been one of those years where I've been so lucky the horses have run how I've expected them to all year, and that was a real blip. And I just no excuses really. Tom wasn't sure about the ground, but she ran too badly for it to be just the ground, and we couldn't find anything wrong with her. She's sound, bloods were good, scope clean afterwards. So all I can really think is that I probably just overcooked her a bit with regards to, Falmouth, Deauville, and then York, all in the space of just over 6 weeks. And I think I messed up there. I think the race I wanted to go for was a Scepter next week at Doncaster, and I was just concerned that the weather wouldn't hold out. And so then we went to York, and once we supplemented, we were kind of committed, and then the ground actually wasn't ideal. And I don't know, if this game's so easy in hindsight, if I had my time again, I probably would have scratched her, but then it would have been a bit of a waste of 15 grand having supplemented her. So it's the first time I've ever supplemented a horse, so I'll be a bit nervous about doing it next time.
Yeah, okay. I mean, look, it's absolutely just it's a weather watch, isn't it? All season through the summer. And we won't mention Royal Ascot, of course. It was the one where I wanted to be the stable cat. I think we can say that. But, however, Starman, he didn't make the Diamond Jubilee. We saw what he did in the July Cup. We called it a July Cup for the ages, Ed. He went to France, the tacky ground, just found him out over that extra half furlong. First and foremost, lots has been said this week now. Punters will know and read your columns. You've been on loads of media, as might have been expected. You've now seen the final field. You've seen the draw. We roughly know what the ground is going to be like. What are your absolute thoughts at the moment? He's around about even money, Ed. He's going to be the most popular horse of the weekend, come what may, prior to 3:30 on Saturday.
Yeah, it's amazing to be even money for a Group 1. It's taken me 10 years to win one, and now we're even money for one. And it's, God willing, he can back it up. And I see absolutely no reason why he can't. Looking at the field, the ground's going to be spot on. I think Haydock will suit him better than the July course. And he didn't have a clear passage really. He only had a tough old race at Newmarket, and he still overcame all that and won well, beating a lot of this field that he'll meet tomorrow. And so look, it'll be obviously very disappointing if he gets beaten, but it's a horse race at the end of the day, and a very good one at that, with some very, very good horses in opposition. So of course we're not going in there, seeing it as a given, but in my opinion, he's the best horse in the race, and certainly the best horse I've ever trained, and everything looks to be in his favour. So I think maybe if I was being picky, the draw could be a little bit against us. It looks like a lot of the pace is going to be lower. If I was to be fussy, I'd like to have a few more speed horses high, but Tom knows him so well, and is such a brilliant jockey, and he'll sort it out.
We had the great Oshu Murphy on last week, and he said he ruefully chose the wrong one in the July Cup, but Tom Marquand, absolute association with this. Now, I guess the question is, Ed, all being well before now and the end of the year, Pat Cooney's question. We know that Primo Baccio stays in training, which is great news. Pat?
Yeah, Ed, obviously we get one race at a time. We get the Sprint Cup out the way, but would you have plans to keep him in training next year? I know you're going to be ground driven, but would there also be a chance he could rock up at Delmar in the Breeders' Cup this year?
I think Delmar is probably unlikely, only because there's not the perfect race there. The turf sprint's over 5, which is going to be a very, very fast 5 round a bend for a big horse. Then there's the dirt sprint. Do we want to run on dirt? Not really. Or the mile. Do we think he'll stay on the evidence of Deauville? Probably not. I know the ground came into play there, but would he stay, a 2-turn mile on very fast ground? Possibly, but none of them are ideal, are they? None of them kind of stand out as the perfect spot for him. Whereas 2022, Santa Anita, turf sprint, 6 furlongs sounds much more appealing.
There was a drop there, Ed, and there was nearly David Ward on the phone saving you by the bell, saying you're letting it all out, man. But let's say that he doesn't go to the States. You're it would be amazing. Let's not rule it out when we have had a Champions Day on quick ground, unless it's quick ground. Will he be scratched? Are you considering keeping him in training, Ed, next year?
Well, obviously, as a racehorse trainer, I'm desperate to keep him in training, and I hope he does stay in training, because I think I think this race tomorrow, I think will answer a lot of questions, really, because I think if he were to win like a horse that can be a great, then there's every reason to have a go next year and try and get that Diamond Jubilee, maybe have a shot at an Everest, maybe have a shot at a Breeders' Cup. All those races that this year probably aren't going to happen for one reason or another. COVID, Del Mar, not being ideal. So, I of course would love him to stay in training. But there's, still plenty of water to go on the bridge. Who knows? I think we'll know more probably after tomorrow about his future, I expect.
Okay, I'm going to call that a moral yes for the show then. All right, great to have Ed with us then. He's given you all the word there on a couple of his special horses and, of course, the big one this weekend. Let's have a look at what's exactly coming up on the rest of the show. Hot topics will be coming your way. Ed's joining us for those. Cannot wait. 6 big race previews. Yes, 6. And those all important weekend winners. Hot topics. Let's have a look at them then. Let's get them up on the screen. Regular viewers know the drill by now. 6 hot topics coming your way. Which will we go for? Well, with Ed Walker on the show, it's remiss of us not to start with selling our star players. Lee Motta's a great piece in the paper this week. Is Britain really becoming a nursery? Which, of course, champion trainer John Gosden remarked might be the case if we carry on as we are. Rubbish prize money, etc. All these horses going abroad. Now, Ed Walker, I want to bring you in here. This is something you know all about. Perhaps the most high profile of all of them in the last 10 years was your English King, who, of course, favourite for the Derby at one time last year.
Yeah, I mean, I believe it's a real problem. Alistair Donald's a great mate of mine, and we work very closely together. And Al doesn't believe it's a big problem, and he believes that it's a bit more is being made of it than needs to be. I've obviously been quite affected by it. I've got a lot of really, I'm very grateful for the Hong Kong support I've had over the years, because that's really helped get my business off the ground. But I've sold, before I trained a Group 1 winner, I'd sold 2 Group 1 winners out of the yard, so the horses that went on to win Group 1s, which is pretty depressing when you haven't won one yourself. I've sold a lot of nice horses, which has been a big benefit to the business. But when you're trying to get your career going and trying to build your profile, it's very hard when every time you have a potentially nice horse and it gets taken away from you. I think more and more horses, as we're losing some of the major owners, Prince Khalid's gone very sadly, Hamdam's gone, those guys who you couldn't buy their horses. And so as those major owners are no longer, and even though they've still got horses in training, the strings are not as big, there's going to be more horses buyable. And I think we'll see more horses being bought, because, a lot of those Jubbmontt maiden winners, etc., they don't get sold, they stay in training. Whereas now my worry is that it's going to have a massive impact on not necessarily the volume of horses in training, but the quality. And maybe not the quality right at the top, but certainly, that sort of Group 3 level to Class 2 handicap level, we're losing a lot of those good horses because they're, owners quite rightly are deciding to sell them because they can't win that money that they're being offered. So, and I think that's where we're going to lose a bit of quality in British racing.
Al Donald, who you referenced there, was in Lee's piece, Kills, is basically saying, well, these horses that we sell abroad that win these Grade 1s, as they call them abroad, wouldn't be winning Group 1s over here. So there's a bit of a tier thing going on. People will say that all-weather racing during the winter, bar the odd, fast-track qualifiers, it's always going to, serve an appetite. Where do you sit with this?
Well, I mean, we've seen some field sizes already this year that have been really poor, haven't we? I think there's a combination of too much racing for that, but also the prize money is poor. It's not an issue that's going to go away, is it? Poor prize money. I mean, it might get slightly better over the next couple of years when we get back to normal, post-COVID. But prize money in Britain's lagged behind for a long while, and is going to continue to do so. So I think it's always going to be a problem. If I was lucky enough to own a horse that turned out to be pretty good, and somebody came out with their checkbook and says, "Well, I want to take this horse to Hong Kong." You'd be very tempted, because I'm not going to compete with Coolmore and Godolphin over here and they may be able to take it over to Hong Kong against a lesser level of horse and win loads and loads of prize money that isn't available to me here. So there's always going to be that danger, I'm afraid. I don't know what the answer is, though, and that's the problem.
Yeah, it's a divisive topic, isn't it? Okay, let's move on. Okay, this week as well, we've seen Dominic Gardner-Hill come out, haven't we, head of the handicapping, and it's a whiff of jumpers in the air, so we move on from transfer deadline week. It's sales week, of course, on the flat, and we start talking a little bit more about jumpers and kills. I want to come straight back to you. Dominic Gardner-Hill has said, basically, we've been handicapping our horses unfairly, pretty much is what he said, from 2018 to 2021. We want to go back in time.
Yeah, well, this is one of these funny things where for years, like, you know, Irish trainers are moaning about their horses getting given higher marks when they come over here. And we've always said, well, you don't handicap your horses properly. But now suddenly the handicappers actually put their hands up and said, well, actually, hang on, we haven't handicapped our horses properly. Like, you know, I mean, it's almost an admittance that that's what's happened. And I used to think some of the ratings that were given, particularly to juvenile hurdlers, were just ludicrously high. I remember, you know, years ago when Detroit City won the Triumph Hurdle, he was still rated 146. Now, if you win a Triumph Hurdle these days, you're 160, which is bonkers. Like, you know what I mean? And that tends to be, you know, it's probably been a problem that's gone all the way through. I haven't, you know, I don't have the data that they've had to look at, but they've actually put their hands up and says, well, look, you know, we're going to have to be a little bit fairer in the way we do things. Hopefully that'll happen. But, you know, when the best horses are in Ireland anyway, whether that is going to end up making that much more difference is another matter.
Well, will it be 23.6 instead of 23.5 at the Cheltenham Festival? We'll find out. Of course, the sales have a lot to do with that as well. Pat Cooney, let's bring you in here. Now, Dominic Gardner-Hill says we're going to catch up by January the 1st. What does that mean? What's the danger of this? Of course, because they're going to drop older horses that haven't been seen for 6 months now will be reassessed differently as well, but also regressive horses as well. Does this make it more attractive to get one beat?
It certainly does, yeah. The regressive one was a line that I pricked my ears up at, and you could run that perceived regressive horse on unsuitable soft ground, drop £2, run it again, unsuitable ground, drop £2. Next thing you know, you've dropped £10 in the weight, and then you run him on the optimum ground that he wants. So there's going to be some trainers thinking, yeah, this is okay. You do hit, it's a bugbear of trainers, isn't it? You know, he runs consistently well, he never gets dropped. If anything, he creeps up pound by pound by pound. But the regressive angle, yeah, no punter likes backing regressive horses. But if they're £10 better in than they were 6 months ago, then they're going to prick their ears up, I'm sure. So it's an interesting angle. But as I say, whether it's going to be 14 all at Cheltenham between England and Ireland, I think we're a long way away from that.
There you go, absolutely. So that will rage on you, imagine, as we near these winter times. Of course, Charlie Hall, Bet365, Charlie Hall, not far off now. Okay, then, sticking with the jumpers, and I'm going to bring Ed in on this one. Going it alone, the news this week that assistant to Paul Nicholls, multiple champion trainer down in Ditchy. He said this will be his 7th season. Harry Derham is going it alone. He's got the backing. He hasn't revealed where he's going to go. How difficult will that be? It's an exciting opportunity, says Harry. Harry, one of the great young characters of the game, I can tell you that much. But he's announced it. It's almost like, you know, Barcelona saying we've got one more season of Messi, isn't it? You know, let's not make the jump season Messi. He's going to leave at the end of the season. Ed, you were a trainer that moved around the houses a little bit early doors. How tough is this going to be?
I mean, it's always tough setting up, but he's got a great kind of foundation to start, doesn't he? You know, he's had how many years you said, 6 or 7 years with Paul, one of the greatest trainers, jump trainers of all time. Worked with some fabulous horses, and you know, I think he's going to be very well equipped to make a good start to his career, and everyone knows who he is. You know, it's you know, I and other trainers kind of probably crept in a little bit more under the radar, and which has its plus points. There'll be big pressure on Harry because, you know, he'll be kind of expected to do very, very well, you know, like the Dan Skeltons of this world and Ollie Murphys, who had unbelievable starts to their careers and have kept that going. So, but no, he's got a great platform to launch off from, and yeah, wish him the best of luck.
It'll be very interesting to see which horses make the journey. Of course, we don't think it's going to be in Ditchy Kills. The leading pupil assistant down there, Charlie Davis, tweeted this week. He went, "I can't believe my luck." You know, he's going to be the new Harry Derham after only 7 years.
Well, this is it. I mean, you know, you must wonder what goes through Paul Nicholls' head sometimes, because he basically spends his life nurturing people who are going to be in opposition to him very soon. Like, you know,
Skelton, Harry Fry,
now Harry Derham, and you know, they've all I mean, it goes to show. I mean, what they learn down there must be amazing because they've all come out and they're coming out and they're being really, really competitive and doing really well. And obviously, Dan Skelton is going to emerge as the biggest danger at some point to Paul Nicholls keep winning this trainers championship, and it's going to happen sooner rather than later because he's started to get the quality as well now. So yeah, he's just put another one on the conveyor belt, as it were.
Exciting times ahead then, of course. So, Ed, did I hear you there? Do you want to jump in?
Fair play to Paul because, as you say, it's not really in his best interest to produce all these brilliant trainers, but he's obviously very generous with his knowledge and his experience and shares that. And it's clearly very obvious that him and Dan Skelton is going to be a massive threat to him as a emerging champion trainer. But Paul is fiercely competitive, but embraces that, and I think that's really cool, and I really respect that of Paul. And my old boss Luca Kamani was the same, and he, fiercely competitive, but still supported me massively when I started training, and still does now. And I think that's really, I think it's a great, testament to Paul Nicholls that these guys, have come through his school and done so well.
Knowing their relationship, let me tell you, no bigger motivation for Harry Derham to get one over on his old boss, or what will be his old boss in a year's time, Paul Nicholls. There are your hot topics. Okay, 1:45 at Haydock. Up to St Helens we go for a stunning day there. First of 6 big race previews coming your way. It is the Superior Mile, a Group 3 with the odd star in the race. I guess, guys, this is all about Lord Glitters, isn't it? Who started his season so well in Maidan. We know what he's about. He's got that Group 1 into his name. Really eye-catching last time, Keels. I guess the problem with him is he needs a strong pace. Will he get one?
Might not. I mean, I have a feeling Maidan might be able to, it has 2 ways of running Maidan. Don't always make the running with him, but it certainly can go forward.
Yep.
Issue with Lord Glitters, like you said, is strong pace, big field is how he suits him. He's 7 from 23 in fields of 10 or more, but he's 2 from 16 in 5 or less. And if you look at that, second to Real World last time, on which form he is an odds-on shot, given he was in front of My Oberon and Belrock and is now £7 better off, then on that form he's a good thing. But he was 5th still with a furlong to run, and they'd gone really hard in the straight when it hit the straight. And now he's a mile shorter, no guarantee of pace. So I'd be tempted to take him on.
Yeah.
I'm not talking, it wouldn't be a strongest bet of the weekend by any stretch of the imagination. But Belrock is a horse that interests me. I thought he ran pretty well when finished 5th. He wasn't a million miles behind Lord Glitters. And what he wants, more than anything else, is the ground to be as fast as possible. And Haydock home straight, 9.3 on the going stick. That's borderline firm. There was a very fast time on Thursday's meeting. And if they, I'd be surprised if they don't put some water on it, but it's very, very quick ground at Haydock, which is, incredibly unusual for this time of year. But actually, it's more than 3 years since they had a going stick rating as high as that.
Yeah. I think Glitter's getting £3 from My Oberon. You could have him shorter potentially, but you do delve into it, don't you? Never run at Haydock. Turns out actually that My Oberon's the only horse to have turned up at Haydock so far. He got beaten in this race by Top Rank last year when people thought he would win. He has been a little bit disappointing though, hasn't he? That French form would give him the squeak, but giving £3 to Glitters?
I don't think he's a fast ground horse either.
Yeah, there is that. Artistic Rifles is the other pace angle. Let's bring Pat in then. Yeah. Pat, Lord Glitters. Everyone's favourite out there. He just looks like a 9 furlong horse now, doesn't he? Always running on, over a mile. Doesn't quite get 10, maybe just gets 10. Needs the fast pace. Sharp track, fast ground. Is this one that's going to go up or down in the market?
I think he'll be very solid. He is a popular horse. And you look at his CV, there's Group 1 place form in the race. And it was a good run, wasn't it, last time to be second behind Real World, who's a talented horse. Obviously, he was in front of My Oberon and Belrock that day. He's got the most realistic chance of winning in the race. Like you, I think Artistic Rifles, Danny, they might set a good gallop. It doesn't win that many races, but when you look at where the company's been keeping, you can understand that. And I fancy Lord Glitters more as a case of not really fancying My Oberon. I mean, I struggle to see how he can give him £3. He is wearing blinkers first time. That's not something William Haggas tends to do with horses. So maybe that's an act of little bit of desperation with My Oberon. I don't know. So it was more a case of not fancying the second favourite, which made me end up fancying Lord Glitters even more in the race.
You get the feeling, Kills, that Pat's right. William Haggis does absolutely last case resort, isn't it? With blinkers on. So I quite like the look at the shape of this, depending on the price of Lord Glitters. Bell Rock is a horse that I like. I backed him in last year's Cambridgeshire. I backed him on his comeback at Newmarket, so he's one of my favourite horses. And it was a comeback run last time. I don't like the others. I think Maydani will come up short, especially with Artistic Rifles. So I've got Lord Glitters on top of Bell Rock. Bell Rock for you, Kills?
Yeah, I'm gonna have cut to Bell Rock, just purely price and the fact that it might not pan out how Lord Glitters needs it to pan out, and that 2 from 16 in fields of fewer than 10 months.
Yeah. It does put you off a bit, doesn't it?
Me off a little
yeah,
bit.
okay. So a tricky one to start today, Pat.
Yeah, Lord Glitters by elimination, really, more a case of not fancying the others.
Oh, he's everyone's favourite, but he's a default favourite in our eyes. Let's go to the POLYTRACK for you, shall we? 240. Well known able this time around. It is the September Stakes, of course, the great filly. And Mare made her comeback pre-arc, didn't she, basically, in this race. So, have we got another star in it? Well, a horse that's done absolutely nothing wrong all year, kept improving all the way he goes. He's 1 from 1 on the all-weather. It's Hookham. Pat, I want to come to you first, because what price have we got here?
Well, he's currently around about 6 to 4 on, and again, it's more by elimination, really, isn't it? And he's done well this year. We had him down as a St. Ledger possible winner this time 12 months ago. That didn't materialise. 1.5 miles, that seems more his cup of tea. He has looked pretty good, hasn't he? His only defeat came in at Royal Ascot, and that might be his best run of them all. He's a solid horse. He has got the £3 penalty, but if connections are still, when they're in paper, they're saying, oh, we're mulling over the Arc de Triomphe. Well, if he's going to be Arc de Triomphe bound, he's got to be winning a Group 3 at Kempton in the September Stakes. He doesn't wow me as a horse, though, to be honest with you. It's just one of those you just think, yeah, he was odds on last time and he won. Yeah, okay, well, and I'm intrigued by Hamish. Now, this is William Haggis, hasn't run for 442 days. We had this conversation in the Ebor preview that he had. He was a live horse for the Ebor.
Yeah.
So he's obviously fit. And on official ratings, he's only got £6 to find. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if Hamish just emerged as just beating him tomorrow, getting that £3.
Let's bring Kills in then, because there's so much to talk about here, Kills, isn't there? Look, we've got Prince of Arran, who usually preps for the Melbourne Cup in this race. Charlie Fellows going to take the plunge, one of Australia's favourite expats, as they call them down there. Looks like he's going into quarantine. That's great. We've got Foxtel, who's an absolute lunatic, isn't he? Very talented, but never quite comes to
actually finished last in this race last year as well.
Yeah,
like,
and so
his sole all-weather run, so you can't have that much interest in him.
But what Pat says is interesting. Hamish on the Trushan line of form, isn't it? Because he would have looked potentially well handicapped had he made it to York. The ground went against him. But Hookham, isn't it interesting what Pat says? Perhaps not the most popular horse because he was defeated in the Ledger. You know, when it comes to the big day, he's not. He's only
had one big day.
Has he been mopping up small races? Though he's been favourite for everything.
He's been merrily pot hunting, cleverly
Yes.
placed to win these races that he is different class in. I mean, I hope that at some point he's going to get another crack at a Group 1 because he hasn't run in one other than
Could be the Arkan.
But you know, if he wins this, he makes it 4 from 6 this year, and he doesn't really have that many hard races. He bolted up last time. He's got the best form in the race. He's won here. I mean, Hamish has never run on the all-weather.
No.
It's Plan B to get.
He's a motivator, which doesn't scream POLYTRACK.
No, it doesn't. I think he's a pretty safe option, to be honest.
Yeah.
He'd be most people's idea of the bank of the day, I think.
Yeah, people like it when you say these skills because, we talked about Lord Glitters, but how low do we go then on Hookham? Is he an if you like to play that way, I mean, I tend not to, but I mean, I think it'd be nearer 2s on. I mean, wow.
I thought he should have been last time, to be honest. It's just one of those. I think he's better than them on all known form, and there are more question marks about the others than there are about him, as in Hamish is the one that's nearest to him, but he's never run on whoever hasn't run for a year. This is very much a plan B for a horse who was being primed for a couple of weeks ago. Yeah,
interesting that you say you think he'll go 2s on. I guess with the Hamish factor and the Haggis factor, and that we're not sure on the Trushan line, I'm wondering if he might stay around that. I've gone for him. I think Outbox gives him a lead. It's as simple as that. You watch this race year in, year out. You remember when Crystal Ocean gave a lead to an A-bar? I mean, that was almost like a training exercise.
Yep.
But what happens is that it's tactical around Kempton, then they kick into that bend in the class, that lovely long home straight. I think he'll come out on top. It's just a price thing. But you are thinking that Hamish might give him a bit of trouble?
Well, I think the key to the market and the race is Hamish. If he's strong in the market, then he could make Hookham a backable price. But the other three, I struggle to fancy. So Hookham, likely winner, 6-4 on. No bargain, given that Hamish is in the race.
Okay, another group race in a small field. Kills says, though, this is just too good for the rest. Back to Haydock again, then. Third race preview that we're giving you is the 255. It's the Old Borough Cup, and in complete contrast to our first two group races, we've got a massive field here, and it's wide open. Again, Pat, let's let you do this, because this favourite Global Storm to me, or the current favourite at the time when we film on Friday, of course, I've got to be taking this one on.
Yeah, I mean, his last time we saw him on a racetrack, he was 10th in the Ebor, beaten 11 lengths, so you're not going wow on that basis. The previous form reads okay. He was second in our Bet365 race at Newmarket, which is a real hot handicap. But he has gone up in the weights. He ran off 100 at Newmarket. He's 104 here, which is what he ran in the Ebor off. So he's one of these flaky favourites, isn't he, where you can think, well, there could be value elsewhere in the race. Popular, of course, would be Noble Masquerade, Holly Doyle, Eve Johnson-Houghton. But that one's going from Class 4s. This is a Class 2, so that remains to be unseen. And then as you go down the runners and riders, you think, oh, no, I always fancy this horse. Every time he runs, I always seem to fancy it. And there's about 4 or 5 of them in this race. Indianapolis, Rhythmic Intent has a chance. My eye is drawn, as it always seems to be, to All Right Sunshine, who,
Pat.
I know, but he was 10th in the Northumberland Plate. We're thinking, well, you don't fancy Global because he was 10th in the Ebor. But he was only beaten 4 lengths at Newcastle. And he was a bit unlucky. And it is the same handicap mark. And he's almost a double-figure price. If he gets a bit more luck in running, I could see him being far more value than the front two in the market for me.
Oh,
I know.
Now, we've mentioned a dodgy favourite, but do you think you're going to be on a horse that might be made favourite here? Pat's already said
yeah, I think Noble Masquerade will end up favourite. The favourite at the moment, I mean, that 10th in the Ebor, obviously Ebor was a much better race than this. The second of Live Your Dream did look really good, but Live Your Dream got chinned. It was 4th of 7 odds on last week. Yeah. So you suddenly think, anyway, is that form all that good? I'm not so sure. Now, Noble Masquerade obviously has a lot of improvement to do, because it's very lightly raced. He's been running in a lower level, but he absolutely bolted up last time. He shapes as though he's going to stay. And when I was looking at this race from an anti-post perspective, I mean, obviously it's cut up, but there were loads of soft ground horses in the race, and he's not one of them. And like I said, it's going to be rattling fast ground, which I think he likes. And Global Storm's got to give him £22. And he's the only other 4-year-old in the race, and the rest are like Pat said.
Go through them.
You wouldn't quite call it a rogues gallery, would you? But I mean, they're old favourites. They're old favourites who are fully exposed, don't win very often. I mean, Wojcinski, I mean, he's the one I've got a soft spot for, and I keep backing him. And, I mean, whatever I do with Noble Masquerade, I've already backed. I'll end up saving him because I can't help it. Yeah. But he's one of them. But every time I back him, he finishes second, literally every time. With me, in a sense, good, but I mean, this ground is not for him. He definitely wants it softer than it's going to be. Indianapolis has been around the block. He's fall for him a million times. I mean, Nicholas T comes out. He's a 9-year-old, won a Northumberland Plate. You know what I mean? So
you wouldn't rule him out, would you?
Wouldn't rule him out. And I have, like Pat, I've fallen for All Right Sunshine a million times. I mean, we were
Musselburgh was the day, wasn't it?
Musselburgh earlier in the season on this show. So a lot of them have had too many chances for me now, and I think Noble Masquerade is an up and comer with conditions to suit.
Yes.
And with Holly Doyle on, I think he's going to end up being fav.
Interesting, isn't it, that in this race, Kills is not going for what you like to call out there a project horse. Is going something coming in there, bang in form. I've got Rhythmic Intent on top. It was quick at York, and something tells me that by the 4th race of the day at Haydock on Saturday, that 9.0 on the going stick might have evaporated. I'm not putting it out there, but I'm suggesting. Now, listen, I will watch the races.
There's not really forecast.
Well, listen, I know that Kills, but there is a hose up there, believe it or not, Haydock. And I'm not putting it out there. I reckon they've got sprinklers, they've got hoses, they've probably got a pool somewhere. They've probably got an estuary. So, listen, it is, I think that I've got to put him on top, because he didn't get much of a run in the race last year. Rodzinski's run in the race last year was horrendous. I can see Rodzinski hitting the frame, because they won't do what they did on him last year. They held him up. If you remember at York the time before, they went too soon. They thought this time we'll hold on to him. Honestly, watch back in the members section last year's Old Borough Cup. Could it hold the key? I will put Rhythmic Intent on top, but I see Noble Masquerade as well. All right, that's the Old Borough Cup. It's a puzzle. Shall we go to Ascot? 3:10 then, the Lavazza handicap. Always a very valuable and fascinating 3-year-old handicap over the mile 4. Group performers tend to lurk in this, Keels. You're seeing the ball big.
Yeah, I mean, it's unlike me. You know what it's like. I mean, first thing I try and do is, find the favourite and then see if I can get it beat. And I'm coming down on a couple that, one that I think is going to be favourite, and this one already is, Warren. But his bid for a hat-trick at York last time, I mean, not much could have gone more wrong for him. He slipped coming out of the stalls, according to the jockey. Wasn't that bad a slip, but it was basically held up last. And they went a bit of a crawl. He was running against a stack of course specialists at York. And the race got away from him, and then he got stopped in his run twice, and he only got beat 2 lengths. On Racing Post ratings, he actually still ran a career best, despite having nothing go right for him. And that tells me that he is still way ahead of his mark, off a mark of 96. He may well be a group horse next year. He's going up a little bit in trip. His pedigree's really good. I think he's out of an unraced sister to the Oaks winner who has also produced a 1 mile 6. He's already produced a 1 mile 4 furlong winner and was a half sister to a 1 mile.
There's no doubt that the trip will suit Keels.
The trip is absolutely going to suit, so he's going to improve for that as well. The question mark is, he's giving weight away to plenty of horses who could have more improvement in them as well. It's one of these races for lightly raced 3-year-old handicappers, isn't it? And they're all slow maturers. But we know how good Sir Michael Stoute is with these slow mature middle distance horses. So you've got that as another plus. I see the William Haggas trained Candlefoot is one that does interest me. Winner at Windsor last time, because Adam Farraher, who's been with him for a while, has now started to be unleashed and ride winners for him.
And £5, isn't it? We'll get to Pat on that
exactly.
in a minute.
So he's the interesting one, the one I think more of a danger than the Queen's horse, the other one that Haggas trains in the race. Chalkstream, that's it, yeah. So, but it's Warren all the way for me. I think he could potentially be better than a handicapper. Pretty sure he will be next year.
Tell you what, Keels could get used to having you in the studio, couldn't it? Because he does this a lot. When we've usually got you on Skype and the guest or something like, he's looking at his phone, he's looking at me for the word. You could just prompt him every now and then.
Yeah. It's brilliant, isn't it? It's brilliant. Look, I am the world's most forgetful human being.
Well, from one to the other. But what I haven't forgotten is that, do you remember when we had Mr. Haggas? I get loads of stip calling him Mr. Haggas by colleagues and things like that. But William Haggas came on the show, didn't he? And he told us all about Al-Azi and all these horses, a day, what he was going to be doing. But he did that weekend mark our card, sort of, with this Candlefoot. He said, I've got the horse running. Was it at Newbury ran out, wasn't it?
He was running on the Friday, yes.
And it drifted all the way out in the betting. It was his debut, badly needed it. Second run as well. He's been a work in progress. Last time at Windsor, people made the mistake of thinking he was looking for a mark. He absolutely bolted up. The second has come out and won this week as well. Candlefoot looks interesting to me, but if you look back in your members section, it's very hard not to tip Warren for Sir Michael Stoute with Ryan Moore getting on. Pat, Adam Farraher, let's go to him. You said last week that was an absolute steal 5, and didn't he do you a favour?
Yes, and £5, I said he's gold dust really with him. And if I was William Haggas, I wouldn't let him have any outside rides. I'd keep him all for myself. And he's tailor-made for days like this, isn't he?
Yeah.
£5 off in a good handicap. Candlefoot unknown, isn't he? The form isn't there, but
well, the second one in the week. Pat, you need to update your figures. Yeah, I think it was yesterday actually. That'll be Thursday at Haydock. The second, the Michael Bell horse, whose name escapes me, came out and won.
Yeah, tall order. Yeah,
tall order. There you go.
But you do look at Warren.
1-1.
You do look at Warren, and he went into loads of notebooks last time out at York, didn't he? And Migration won the race. It was a real hot handicap, and he should have won.
So what price are we going to be talking about?
Well, he's 3-1 at the moment, and it's going to be one of those 3-1 and very popular prices, isn't it? It's got Ryan Moore aboard for Sir Michael Stoute. The trips there, it's desperately hard to find anything negative about the horse other than he's bumping into progressive unknown quantities.
Is this a unison? Is this Warren 3 ticks?
Yeah, well, with Warren, he's rated 96. We'll look at him in a couple of months' time and he'll be rated 100 and something, won't he? So I can certainly see him winning tomorrow, and I think he'll be, like Keels alluded to, I think he'll be a very well-backed favourite here.
We're bidding to bid and emulate last week's naps then. All 3 somehow went in. We're all bidding for Warren. 3:30. It's Group 1 time then here on What a Shout. It is the Sprint Cup up at Haydock. First thing to say, guys, before we go into, the short price fab and the rest of the field, when was the last time this was run on quickish ground? Hard to remember, isn't it?
A while ago, that's for sure. I mean, it certainly hasn't been run on ground this quick for a fair while.
Yeah.
Everything in favour for Starman, you would have to say.
Yeah, we've heard from Ed Walker, of course. Didn't think he'd be turning up here, but he's got his ground, this chap. They think he wants top of the ground. What price, Pat Cooney, is... I mean, this is going to be the pivotal hope for everyday punters out there, if you like. Betting shop punters, should we call them that? Something like that, I don't know. They're just looking at one horse since Monday, haven't they? You know, the rest of the racing will fall pat. Everyone's been talking about Starman this week, but he hasn't been backed.
He hasn't been backed, and of course, that's because in terms of anti-post, and you think HAYDOCK-SPRINT Cup, well, the last 5 years have been either soft or heavy. His only 2 defeats have been on soft ground. So no one could back Starman anti-post. So we go into the race as bookmakers with a good-looking book. It's been a light betting race. We've laid a few of the outsiders. So Starman, we can just price him on what we actually think he's going to be. And so long as it says good to firm in the going description, you know he's going to be extremely popular. He won a July Cup on good to firm. That's the best currency there is out there. He's evens, and a very well supported evens as well. I could see him perhaps going over odds on this race. And if the July Cup version on fast ground turns up, he's only had 6 races, of course, so he could even be even better than that run. He's a real solid favourite. A caveat may be Creative Force was a little bit unlucky in the July Cup, but perhaps he might be a 7 furlong horse as opposed to a 6 furlong horse. So it's all in place for a mighty run from Starman. And since the final decks came out, he's been extremely popular in the market and very well taken. But again, you look at the race, you've got Nando Parada, Frankie Dettori on the 50-1 rank outsider. So there's each way opportunities in the race. If Starman doesn't float your boat, you can bet without him and so forth. One we have laid since the final decks came out at a big price again is Emiratiana. Now, that was second in the Nunthorpe over 5, so that's 20-1. And
for Kevin Ron and Hello Youmzain.
Yeah, so there's value betting without, you know, and so forth. So you don't have to float your boat completely around Starman. Yeah. But if you're just looking at the race as a whole, you'd say, yeah, Starman definitely likely winner, provided it is good to firm.
Right, Keels, you've been making noises about this, no doubt, all week, but you've seen the draw, you've seen the final field. We think we know what the ground's going to be. Take it away.
Well, we know what the ground's going to be. The ground's going to be very fast. And if Starman runs to that July Cup level, he is out of reach. I don't think there's any doubt about that because that was really good. He won it easily. Beat some, you know, obviously very good horses. I mean, Art Power was on the other side, but Oxted had won the King's Stand and was defending his title there. He was in the race. It was a very, very good run. He wins, basically. But you know, there are each...
Had to be a buck,
you know, I mean, he was beaten last time at Dover. I think it was definitely a combination of ground and trip, that 6.5 furlongs in the Maurice de Guiche. You know, he's the one who's most likely to win. But on the grounds that you should never be afraid of one horse. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. But
all right.
I mean, when you look at the rest of the market, there's a horse in there that is in the wrong place. And that's Summergand, who won last week.
What? He's now become your horse. He was Bruce Millington's horse.
He's my, you know,
Public's horse, but now Keels' horse.
I mean, it was one of the most baffling drifts I've ever seen in my life. And you know, my first bet on him last week was at 6-1.
I mean, we had a proper cheer, didn't we?
And he's gone off at 16s, which was just crazy. He had plenty in his favour. He loves fast ground.
Yes.
All his best form was on fast ground. He's won at the track. He's back to form. Now, he was out of form in the Diamond Jubilee and in the July Cup. And I've no idea what reason, but he showed he was on the way back in that Stewards Cup run when he never got a run. And his early season form, he beat Oxted at Newmarket. He was 4th to Starman in the Duke of York, finished ahead of Art Power, finished ahead of Emirati, Anna I think was in the race as well. And, you know, this is solid form. And at his very best, which he looked very much on good terms with himself last time, he's right up there with them. There's a bit of pace in the race, which will suit. And you know, I think he'll get in the frame.
Interesting.
I'm going to back him without. There'll be a without market, and he probably won't be far off double figures for that as well. Right. You know, so he's the one I'm focusing on for a bet myself. I do think Starman will win. This is one of the races, though, that people have always said this is your breakthrough Group 1 for sprinters, isn't it? 4 of the last 7 or 8, I think, were winning the Group 1 for the first time.
Dream of Dreams.
Including Dream of Dreams, Hello Youmzain the year before.
Interesting.
Although, obviously, 4 years ago, Harry Angel just cemented himself as champion sprinter by absolutely bolting up
You wonder how much that's got to do with the ground as well, don't you, each year? Is it, who's fit and all that. We have got other horses in there, Kills, and there'll be two in particular I want to talk to you about. Lots of people will now be screaming at the telly going, but surely Creative Force is the each way to nothing.
Here's the worry about, for me, Creative Force from and Glen Shiel as well, another two right up there. I think 6 furlong on rock hard ground is on the short side for Creative Force. I think he will be run off his feet. Yeah. He won't have that rise at Newmarket that he got last time to get him back into the race at the death. So I think he might struggle.
Yeah.
Same thing for Glen Shiel. I just think the ground is much too fast for him. I know he does have some decent form on fast ground, but it's a case of he wants a really, really stiff test.
He just didn't turn up in France last time.
No, exactly. So he's got a bad run. Art Power didn't run so well at Goodwood when things were in his favour. Now he's got form on all grounds, but I still think he wants a bit of cut, really. And I'm going down. Of course, I can beat you. I can beat you. I can beat you. And I'm coming down and think, well, actually, this horse has got a good chance of being in the frame. Chill is the other one. She loves fast ground. It was all a bit too quick for her at York, but obviously going back up to 6 furlongs will help.
She got the eye a bit that day, didn't she?
Yeah. She did. Yeah. She did. I mean, they would be my two. I might have a couple of without plays, a couple of tiny each way bets. I mean, if I'm going to have a proper bet, I'd like to think there's a more than realistic chance of getting Starman beat. And I think if he's at his best, he'll just win.
If it all goes well, of course, you'll be able to play that way. So Kills basically looks at some of the earlier favourites and think, I can see that 100%. We think Starman will win. I agree with that as well. Looked at the draw, he's installed 10, isn't he? And the pace, you think Glen Shiel, you think Emiratiana, they're different sides to him. A slight worry, historically in this race, something can get away. It can just get first run. What tends to get first run in the Sprint Cup tends to win. They don't come scything through the pack. So tactics will be absolutely key. I've got I don't really want to oppose him. I've got him on top, of course, like the rest of us. Price thing, interesting. We'll see how it goes. My one reservation, if you were going to go nap time with Starman, is that how hard a race did he have in France? It was tacky ground, as we heard from Ed, and we've seen it with Primo Baccio and horses like that. They don't always turn up the next time. So will he be? But yeah, if he comes back to July Cup form, we are going to see Usain Bolt streak away from the field. 2:48 then, a Sunday treat for you here on What a Shout. Now, I have to say that the Prix de Moulin, one of the great, Derville Group 1s, what a couple of weeks we've had there, and it is a sizzling race, has been diluted something like by the defection of Poetic Flair, which we pre-recorded earlier, but Paul Kealy's now left the studio. I told you could do him out of a job, Unlike Poetic Flair, he's somewhere in transit. Let's hope he's not on a ferry or something like that. I think he's got to get to Ascot. But Poetic Flair coming out, all right, big curveball. What does that now mean for Baaeed?
Yeah, well, he's still got to win a Group 1, hasn't he? He's only won a Group 3 and 3 other minor races, so the jury is still out a little bit on him, but of course, massive plus, no Poetic Flair. He has got Snow Lantern, a Group 1 winner, Order of Australia, a Breeders' Cup winner. Not a gimme by any means. It's going to be a smaller field.
Victor Durham, good horses.
Yeah.
Now, I heard you on the week on Sky. I was beavering away for my bosses to listen to, and I listened up, and I heard you saying that the price in the week about Baaeed was terrible. But now, obviously, those that are already on, because if you've been on Baaeed so far, you're thinking to yourself, aren't you? I'll just wait till he goes into Group 1 company, probably going to come up against a classic winner, or Gosden's, Palace Pier or something like that. But once again, they can't get any value out of him.
That's right. You would have thought, wouldn't you, by Baaeed's first appearance in a Group 1, it would be a minimum requirement. It'd be odds against, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
But when William Haggas declared him at the start of the week, yes, we're going, and Jim Bolger with Poetic Flair was, well, hang on, we've got Leopardstown the following week, Irish Champions Day. But then you're thinking, well, hang on, Jim Bolger, he does run a horse twice in a week, doesn't he? So you're thinking, well, it'll probably turn up. But a lot of the Baaeed odds on was factored into the price. Yes, he's running. Well, he's still running. He's still going to be odds on. I'm still going to believe it when it happens that he's the new Pegasus.
Yes. But the horse racing world wants him to win, don't they? We want to see it. But Snow Lantern, her straight track form is there to see. Falmouth, she won at Newbury, of course, straight track. If she settles, she's going to give him a fright, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And like that. And the punters and the public, we like unbeaten horses, don't we? Baaeed 4 from Hoare. The speed figure guys, they like him, which is, that's always a positive. Yeah, I'd love him to win, and I'd love him to win well. And we could say, because there's always that question, who's the best horse in the world? What if it is Baaeed?
Yeah, we're going to find out on Sunday. A real treat for you. Okay, let me tell you, Kills would have tipped Poetic Flair. But who needs Kills? Who needs Poetic Flair? The racing world will be shouting when you've got Baaeed. Nap time then, here on this weekend's What a Shout. Now, pressure's on, chaps, because the hat-trick was landed last week. Would you mind if I go? And it's one of the early races, 1 o'clock at Kempton. Look no further than High Faulting. George Wood, Harry Eustace. Cruised there last time. This is the time to take him back to 6. I think he'll win. Pat?
I'll go to the last race at Ascot. Mine's a double. Clive Cox, Ryan Moore. Could be a big day for Ryan Moore. He's got some good-looking rides. 2 runs, 2 wins. Hard horse to assess. Visually, he looks the part. I'll expect him to win the 5:30.
That link could not have been any better because yours is always a treble, so...
Absolutely. So Michael start Moore again. Wow, around 3:10 Ascot. Have a feeling this is a group horse in the making for next year, and he's running off 96.
There you are. There are your all-important weekend naps. Well, that's all we've got time for then on this weekend's What a Shout. What fun it's been. What great timing it has been to have Ed Walker making his debut on the show. Ed, we wish you the very best. Point and go on Saturday at 3:30.
Well, cheers, Dave, and thanks, guys, for having me. It's been fun. And, yeah, fingers crossed we can get the job done tomorrow. So, yeah, thanks a lot.
Pat Cooney, we'll see you next week as well in the chair.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm off to Haydock on Saturday. It'll be the first time in 5 years I'll be wearing my Gucci shoes rather than Wellington. So
Let it not be said that Pat Cooney doesn't get him back. He'll have Kills out of a job yet. Do not worry. Okay, I've been Dave Orton. Don't forget, of course, to gamble responsibly. Please do this weekend. Don't forget to download the free must-have Racing Post app. You can do that on the App Store or the Google Play Store. Well, there's loads of sport out there. Enjoy it.